Welcome to the diversity training session. The focus of this training is on increasing cultural awareness and should take no longer than 20 minutes to complete. After completing this training, you will develop an understanding of what is meant by the term diversity. You will be aware of diversity-related issues such as stereotypes and biases. You will understand the importance of reducing racial stereotypes and biases that deter from inclusive behaviors, and also you will be aware of the systematic racial advantages and disadvantages that are present. So diversity, what is it? Diversity, in the sense we are talking about today, refers to people with different opinions, often referred to as diversity of thought, different backgrounds such as different degrees or social experiences, religious beliefs, political beliefs, sexual orientations, heritage, and life experience. There are many other examples of diversity, and this list is by no means exhaustive. Can you think of any other examples of diversity? Now, when we think about diversity in an organization or workplace, we tend to often refer to diversity of race and gender. There is usually a strong effort to ensure that an organization is hiring employees of varying races and genders. There is also a strong focus on ensuring that there is racial and gender diversity in positions such as leadership roles and other higher level roles. Not only is the goal to have a diverse workforce, but the appropriate amount of diversity at all levels of the company. Circling back to the question about what is diversity, the technical definition of what diversity refers to in an organization is a broad pool of employees based on race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. As was mentioned on the prior slide, diversity encompasses many different aspects of someone's identity. These individual factors or differences are what make up the concept of diversity in an organization. Alongside the efforts to foster a more diverse and inclusive workforce, there are challenges that may arise as well. Can you think of any challenges that may arise when attempting to promote a more diverse workplace? Meaning, this can include people of different ages, races, sexual orientations, and so on. I will run through some examples. Ethnic and cultural differences are a major challenge. These can stem from people who grew up in different areas that accepted or approved of different norms or traditions. What is normal for one person may be completely foreign to another person who is not raised in the same way. For example, the norm in Asian communities is to be a team player and always look out for what is best for your group or team. In Western cultures, such as the United States, individualism and the fact that everyone has their own path and identity is valued. In the United States, people often focus on what is in the best interest for themselves or their own success. As you can see, the norms in the two different cultures are quite opposite. If a professional from Japan came to work with a professional from the United States, there may be some challenges due to the working styles between the two. The professional from the United States may be more apt to make decisions and be assertive, while the professional from Japan may rather collaborate to make a decision and not speak up unless it is necessary. The differences in these working styles could lead to some unforeseen challenges within working teams. Another challenge is our communication barriers. This can also fall under ethnic and cultural differences. Just like in the previous example, due to the norms of their culture, the professional from the United States may be more likely to speak up and debate their point. The professional from Japan may be more reserved in this way. This difference in communication styles may lead the professional from Japan to find the other person to be aggressive and off-putting, leading to more challenges further down the road. Other examples of challenges include age and generational differences. I think we can all relate to this one, even just thinking about the difference in opinions, interests, and so on between yourself and people who fall into different age groups in your life. This translates directly into the workplace as well, when there are older and younger employees working together. Stereotypes and biases are a very common and prevalent challenge to fostering a diverse, inclusive work environment. Let's learn more on the next slide. A major challenge of fostering an inclusive environment where people are accepted for who they are is the presence of biases and stereotypes. You have probably heard these terms before, but are you familiar with what they mean? Bias refers to a preference, either positive or negative, that interferes with the ability to be neutral. This is oftentimes based on a general assumption placed upon another group. This is more connected to how you feel about someone else. For example, you may hear someone say, "I know we are trying to become increasingly diverse, but I couldn't bring myself to hire that older gentleman because I've been done wrong by an older gentleman before." In this example, the employee had hard feelings about a particular group of people, in this case, older people. Stereotypes, on the other hand, refer to assumptions about members of another group that are typically based on how you think about others. For example, you may hear, "I can't hire that older gentleman because, as you know, old people are slow and take a long time to learn new things." There is an assumption that just because someone is old that they will not be able to get the job done efficiently. Stereotypes are often thought of as negative, but they can also have a more positive connotation associated with them. For example, people of Asian descent often hear the stereotype about being good at math. While this is not necessarily a negative stereotype, it can be inaccurate and should not be used to assume something about another person. What is a stereotype you often hear about a group you belong to? If you could tell those people anything in response, think about what that would be. An easy one for me to think about is being a millennial. I am 27 years old, and I hear all of the different assumptions about my generation, such as, "We are lazy, and we all won a trophy for participating." If I could respond and say anything, it would be, "I know it may appear that I'm lazy because I'm still living at home at 27, but I'm also just dedicating all of my time focusing on getting a master's degree and working as an intern. So I haven't had the opportunity to save and really begin a life as an adult. I am overcoming challenges and have failed many times, which I realize is a part of developing as a person." As you can see from my example, that those assumptions do not necessarily belong to me just because I'm a millennial. This is important to remember when making assumptions about another person or group. Although easy and second nature, relying on stereotypes and biases to inform how you view the world around you will lead to inaccurate perceptions about others. In turn, you will never truly know that person, which may make it hard to form relationships and effectively work with one another. Instead of placing your own judgment on others, therefore jading your perception of them, interact with those who are not like you, and you may find that there are many more similarities than differences present. Now that we have more of an understanding about what challenges are present with promoting an inclusive environment, let's dive into equality and equity, what they mean, and how they appear in society. Often, a focus in the past has been on fostering equality. However, the more we progress as a society, it is apparent that the problem is deeper than just equality alone. Even when there are laws in place that require equal treatment of employees, there may still be specific barriers that some people face based on their gender, race, and so on. To ensure that individuals are able to bust through those barriers, appropriate resources may be distributed to them when needed. Equality and equity are two different things. Equality is defined as sameness, evenly proportioned or balanced. Equity is defined as policy and practice that is fair and just. Here is an example that may help you conceptualize the difference between the two. I had a boss who always used the example of her kids' breakfast in the morning. At one point, she had a 16-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. In the morning, they would both sit down and eat breakfast before school. Her 16-year-old son would go in the cabinet and get a large mixing bowl out with a giant spoon, making a huge bowl of cereal. Her daughter would have a normal, smaller bowl of cereal to begin her day. Now, if everything was equal, both of her children would have received the same bowl of cereal. However, equality was not what was needed in this situation and would not have been a good solution. Here is why. Equality would mean that both children received the same bowl of cereal. If the 16-year-old son received a small bowl of cereal, the size of his 7-year-old sister's, he would not have been full or satisfied. On the flip side, if the 7-year-old daughter received a giant mixing bowl of cereal, this would have been way too much for her to even eat. This sheds light on the importance of equity as opposed to solely focusing on equality. In the workplace, efforts are there to foster equality and equity. Equality efforts can be seen through the implementation of equal employment opportunity policies that ensure that nobody is being outright discriminated against. Equity efforts can be seen in the incorporation of affirmative action policies that ensure minorities are getting hired at a comparable rate as the majority group. This means that extra steps are being taken to make sure that they are getting the same opportunities. In conclusion, you can see non-discrimination efforts such as EEO laws that have been developed and implemented in the past are important, but it is imperative that we continue to push through challenges and barriers that may still be present, such as those we just discussed, like affirmative action, in order to further foster environments where everyone not only has the resources to develop and thrive, but also feel comfortable while doing so. The difference in whether to focus on equality or equity depends on the circumstances. Equality is important in some circumstances, like ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to be considered for employment, for example, women and minorities. However, as we learned, equity is taking it a step further and ensuring that everyone has the proper resources that they need to obtain equal opportunities. A focus on equity is very important in our society today because there are many unearned, unrequested advantages or privileges that some groups have. So ensuring that those who lack privileges have the resources to opportunities they may otherwise miss out on is a must. Privilege is defined as the unearned advantages and benefits often invisible to the dominant group. Can you think of any privileges that are present in our society? Also, try to think if you belong to a certain group, what privileges you might have. For example, if you're a male, you will have gender privilege. If you're a white individual, you will have racial privilege. If you're a straight, for your sexual orientation, you will have sexual orientation privilege, and so on. Now, let's apply what we just discussed. In this activity, place a green box over the space containing the privilege characteristics that you think are applicable to you. Place a red box over the characteristics that you think are not applicable to you. To do this, click once to place a green box and click twice to place a red box. Some of these terms may not be familiar. Just for your awareness, cis, C-I-S, refers to cisgender, meaning you identify with one of the two binary genders, man or woman. No speech impediment. You will select this item if you are able to speak fluidly without stuttering, lisps, or any other speech disruption. Able-bodied refers to someone who is able to physically move and function without assistance. Mentally healthy. You will place a green box over this if you do not have a mental illness such as depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorders, or addiction. If you do not possess anything off of the list just mentioned, or any other mental illness, you will select a green box for mentally healthy. Born in country of residence. You will place a green box over this if you live in the country you were born in. First world refers to a country with modern conveniences such as running water and electricity. Examples of these countries are the United States, Canada, and Japan. Not a redhead. This means that you have a color of hair that is not red. For example, blonde, brown, or black hair. And human, or free space. Everyone will place a green box over this category. As a reminder, click one time to place a green box and click twice to place a red box. Okay, go ahead and give it a try. Please take a moment to record the code below. At the end of this training, you will be asked to enter this code. The code is 60946. Again, the code is 60946.